Our first item on the agenda is our approval of our April LAMTD meeting minutes.
Make a motion for approval.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions, edits? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So we'll open the floor for public comments. Anyone from the public?
Yes,
If you'll go to the podium and state your name and where you live, and you'll have 3 minutes.
my name is Jaden Starfisher. I am a resident in Winter Haven. Apparently, there's a problem with the communities around, 1 second. The communities around the communities of Woodridge, Forge Ridge, Royal Hills, Swiss Village, and Lucerne Park Reserve, all communities on Old Lucerne Park Road, where they have to walk up to 30 minutes in order to go to the buses, to the bus stop, when it takes less of that to drive to the town. And this bus stop only really serves an Amazon warehouse that's nearby. So I ran a petition to try to add a bus stop on Old Lucerne Park Road to serve these communities. Currently, that petition has around 46 signatures. And I hope you see that this bus stop will not only help the community at whole, but also hopefully get money for the community, for the bus system.
Great. Well, thank you. I'm going to let staff address that, but first of all, thank you for taking the initiative to research this and to look at it and understand and actually set up a petition. That shows a lot of civic engagement. I really appreciate that. I know our fellow board members appreciate that as well. So thank you for being an engaged citizen and coming and addressing this with us. And I'll turn it over to Executive Director Phillips. If there's anything you want to say about process or.
Yes. So thank you very much. I have to say, extremely impressive.
Yes.
Thank you for caring so much about the transit dependent of your community. You're truly setting a fantastic example. And I'd love to take a picture of the literature that you just had. That's really great. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. We'll have our planning department take a look at that. I'm very excited to tell you that I just spoke to Mayor Dantzler earlier this week and the Winter Haven City Commission and gave them a transit update. And Mayor Dantzler actually asked us to take a look at a few changes to bus routes. So we will absolutely add this to that list of changes that we're taking a look at for the Winter Haven community and see if that's something that we can do. So I can't thank you enough. And I would imagine that we can have that process done in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And we'll make sure to report back to you as well as the Winter Haven City Commission on what some of the options are.
So much.
You got to contact him?
Yes, and I'd love to get your contact information. Mr. Walters will get your contact information so that you have our contact information and that we have yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Tom, you want to take a picture of that real quick?
Yes, I'd love to. Or Dave, can you get a picture of the?
I can.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Very well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are you looking for an internship? Okay.
Seriously. Great. Do we have any other public comments? Okay, seeing none. Like positive public comments. That was great. We'll move on to the Jim Award.
Yes, Chair, I'd like to introduce Paul Sims, who is here today to talk about what one of our bus operators, Thomas Molding, did. It is an extremely exciting update for you all, one that will sound eerily familiar to a GEM award that was recently given a few weeks ago.
Yes, Madam Chair, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here today to present to you the GEM award for the month of May. Our recipient is Thomas Molding. Thomas has always demonstrated he cares for the people of Polk County. He shows a professional attitude toward our customers and have very special identification skills. On May 3rd, Thomas was doing his normal route with a lot of customers. When you arrive at the terminal, Safety and Security Bill was informing all operators about a missing endangered person, Mr. Kenneth Martin. Because of his excellent customer service, you recognize that Mr. Kenneth Martin was on his bus earlier in the morning. Mr. Martin was dropped off at the target. By providing this information to the Safety Department, Polk County Sheriff was able to find the missing endangered person. Thomas Molden has been and continues to be an invaluable asset to Citrus Connection and the Operations Department. His actions during this event reflect the pride and professionalism of Citrus Connection employees. His support for the district and for the people of Polk County reflects greatly upon himself and in keeping with the Citrus Connection mission and our values. Today, I take it a great pleasure in presenting to Mr. Thomas Molden the award for Gem for the month of
You can stand right here. Congratulations. Your son said you had a knack for finding people. Well, thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
I love those two. Okay, moving on. We're going to go to Ms. Bennington, our CFO, for our finance update.
Mine is not as exciting as that. so, Sorry. Let's
Still positive.
That's true. LAMTD, the total revenues year-to-date through March 31st were 6.6 million, or 110% of the year-to-date budget. The fare box revenues reflect 158,120, or an unfavorable 47% of the year-to-date budget. This is still due to the driver shortage and the decline in ridership. The contract revenues totaled 63,625. This is the universal access passes. Ad valorem taxes totaled 5.4 million, or 93%. Total budgeted revenues were 5.6 million, and as you know, only 95% of the taxes are budgeted by state law. The expense side through March 31st totaled 5.2 million, or 86% of the year-to-date budget. The salaries and benefits represent 65% of the budget. These expenses totaled 3.4 million, which is 12% under budget, or a favorable variance of 474,000. Fuel expenses totaled 312,510, which is over budget by 15%. And materials and supplies totaled 341,000, or 7% under budget. Based on the year-to-date budget to actual variances through the end of March, the financials reflect a favorable actual variance of 1.4 million, with 50% of the fiscal year completed. This is still predominantly due to the influx of the ad valorem tax.
Any questions on LAMTD? Commissioner Lindsay.
A generic inquiry across the board about fuel experience, availability, and percentage increases in prices.
So as you know, we purchased on the fuel consortium, so we pay effectively 0.005% above the rack rate. And we purchase in a consortium with Hillsborough, Pinellas Counties, Hart, PSTA, the Polk County Board of County Commissioners, and the school board. So we're getting the best possible rates that we can. However, we are still subject to the increases. And as you know, last week, diesel hit its highest price ever. So we are monitoring that. The good news is that, as you have been on the board, we have taken our average fleet size from 40 feet down to 30 feet. And many of the vehicles that we use on the east side of the county are now unleaded, not diesel. So we're starting to see, we're doing the best we can for prices, but we are monitoring that. Todd, is there anything else to add on the consortium? And as far as availability, it's been 100%, Jay?
I have a question. Do we hedge like we do? I'm looking at you at Lakeland Electric. No. Okay. When we purchase fuel for Lakeland Electric, there's a hedging process that goes out forecasting that some agencies aren't allowed to do. First, we municipal utilities are. All right, no other questions on LAMTD. We'll move to Polk County Transit.
For Polk County, the revenues totaled 4.4 million or 98% of the year-to-date budget. FTA drawdowns totaled 746,000 or 51% of the year-to-date budget. The Polk County city contributions reflect a payment of $367,865, and the county funding reflects payments of 3.03 million. Total expenses for the period totaled 3.8 million or 4% of the year-to-date budget. The salaries and wages totaled 1.9 million or 83%. Operating expenses totaled 1.2 million or 90% of the year-to-date budget. Any questions on that?
Questions on county? Okay, move on.
Moving on to transportation disadvantaged. Revenues totaled 732,000 or 83% of the year-to-date budget. The TD Trust Fund grant drawdown totaled 667,000 or 85% of the budget. County funding for the match totaled 64,453 or 74%. The total expenses were 741,000 or 85% of the year-to-date budget. Salaries, wages, and benefits totaled 530,000 or 80% of the year-to-date budget. And operating expenses totaled 212,000 or 98% of the year-to-date budget. The actual expenses do exceed the revenues by $9,400. This is still a continuing issue with the shortage of drivers, routes being closed, and drivers being utilized on other routes. We are moving the 5.98% like we discussed previously, using the job costing method for the drivers that are being reallocated. Further, during the month of March, there were 3 payrolls and the allocation of repairs and maintenance for buses were higher than usual.
Questions on TD? Okay. Now we're going to do the amendment to the FTA American Rescue Plan grant for Lakeland.
This was previously approved by the board. There was $50,000 allocated to the purchase of golf carts, which was an ineligible expense. We'd like to move the $50,000 to be used towards preventative maintenance.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Then we'll go to the internship program.
Okay. We recommend the board approve an ongoing intern budget. The staff recommends option A. There's several options listed in the examples supporting the write-up. In previous years, LAMTD has paid $10 per hour for interns. Career Source, Polk summer interns. We have actually 4 that are being allocated to Citrus Connection are being paid $15 an hour. We've given examples of $10 per hour and $13 per hour. However, we recommend that we stay at the $10 per hour for now. And we also recommend 6 interns versus 10 interns at this time. However, we've provided these supporting examples.
We'll do a motion and we'll do discussion. Motion to approve.
For discussion, I move approval of staff recommendation, option A.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. Commissioner Lindsay.
During retreat, we talked about this at length, and I made the recommendation that we should hire these young people through a temp agency. Does that have merit? Does that pose an issue?
It would be somewhat of an issue because what they would be doing is they would be doing an upcharge of about anywhere from 30% above than what we would be paying them straight out. They'd be covered under our workers' comp, but they'd be in very low risk positions as opposed to we would be getting the higher, what they call markup from a temp agency. And then, so it becomes a problem. It becomes difficult for us because then we have to work through their timesheets. And the whole concept here is to try to encourage them to become future employees, if not with us, somewhere else. And now they're working through a temp agency, so they're learning to be a temporary employee as opposed to being a direct employee for the employer.
I'm not sure I agree with that distinction. If they're working here, getting paid here, I'm not sure the name on the check makes the difference, the task that they're assigned. I was just familiar with industrial incidents, that level of separation was most beneficial. So that's the reason I bring it up. So
Yeah, for the positions that we have that are more industrial and such, those would be direct hires, and they would not really be part of the internship program. We tend to see those folks in finance, call center, focused areas where they're going to be more office-based in terms of that internship experience. We don't want to put anybody at risk.
just an observation.
It's a good point.
I'd like to see some emphasis on tech and trades and not just advanced work. And I don't know how to qualify that, or is it just simply suggest it or have the conversation?
Concur.
I agree too.
Yes, sir. So Commissioner Lindsay, as you know, we've effectively cobbled together an internship program for the last 4 or 5 years. And that has led to a direct hire every year for the last 5 years. One of those was and is now a bus operator. So we have converted administrative roles into bus operators as well. We do have a variety of IT interns as well. And as you know, many of those are in the bus related as well. Billy Gray being the greatest example of someone who technically works in the trades, but also in the IT. So those options are open as well.
So rather than fix a percentage or number, I just put forth to encourage that
Yes, sir.
process.
Staff has recommended option A for a variety of reasons. Number one, it's the most affordable and cost effective. As you know, the board authorized a pay realignment for the drivers. And while we're confident that that's budgetarily neutral for the reasons that we've discussed prior, we want to be the best stewards of taxpayer dollars. So this is the lowest cost option. As far as the discussion that we had at the retreat and Commissioner Walker discussing $13, $15 an hour, at this point, we have not had an issue recruiting interns at $10 an hour for the Citrus Connection sponsored program, because the expectations that we set, and we discussed this with the chair, are that while there's no guarantee of a job offer, that our previous track record has been that we convert typically one employee or one intern into a full-time position. And these are typically good positions, as you know, with excellent benefits. Whereas the Polk Works and the Workforce Development Board students tend to be high school students, not college students. And there's less of an expectation that they're going to be hired as a full-time student. So that $15 an hour, I believe, makes more sense from a market perspective, because they're passing on taking other summer jobs and doing an internship, where our interns are looking for a little bit of a different experience. So we have not had issue in recruiting at $10 an hour, and I don't believe we will. So I believe that's a very affordable option. We also discussed 6, and with the chair, who's taken interns much longer than we have, that we do not want to overextend ourselves, and that there's a recognition that the quality of our internship programs needs to stay high. And that 6, we feel as a senior staff, is a manageable number, that we can keep that quality very high. And as much as we'd like to have 10, 12, or 15 interns, we feel that at this point, we can't guarantee that quality that we've been giving them.
Well, and one of the things we talked about is the infrastructure of the program itself. And then, that can scale later on. Like, we can look at it once we have the infrastructure built, because we don't want it to be, if you're having a robust internship program, it is very structural, it's transdisciplinary, it has a lot of different pieces to it. And the onus on that is on staff originally. Once they get this structure in place, I think it can be built upon, because you know your expectations. In addition to the number of $10 an hour, and I thought about this more over the last couple of days, is some of these internships, if they have the rigor that we're looking for, they can even qualify that for credit hours at school. And so that ties into almost a benefits package in some regard, that you can have some, maybe an hour or a couple hours of college credit, and that, is counted in their internship program. Commissioner Santiago had a comment.
You touched exactly on what I was going to ask about the 6 versus the 10. Being a former educator, I know how difficult it is to have a large number, and the quality of the program can suffer. So I agree with the 6, but I couldn't remember from last year, how many interns do you have?
4.
4, so we are increasing from 4 to 6,
This,
if it's approved.
if this is approved, this
Okay.
this will be adopted in the 2022, 2023 budget.
Yeah,
We
I,
currently
I,
have, Steve, 4 Citrus Connection interns?
4 citrus and 5 for career source.
4, so, and 2 of the 4 are returning. And they'll be returning to the IT department. So Jimmy Blizzard, who interned with James last year, will be moving over to information technology, as he found that that's what he was more interested in last year. Noah Young, who has worked in our IT department, will be returning as well. Simran Kimhar, who is a recent graduate from Florida Southern College, oh my gosh,
No, well,
Florida Southern College. Sorry, Mr. Please don't tell Dr. Kerr.
I just texted him.
She just graduated as a senior and she was referred by Dr. Bruce Anderson. So
okay,
we've got
good. That's what I was thinking of. I prefer quality over quantity anytime.
and Simran will be solely focused on market penetration at Florida Southern for the squeeze and leveraging and building on our business relationships in the LDDA service area to continue to increase and see squeeze ridership increase.
And I think, really quick, I'll bounce the mayor, but just to Commissioner Lindsay's point, I want to make sure that we are reaching out to Ridge and Travis,
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
the tech, and just sort of seeing like what theirs looks like, now theirs might be different. It might not be a traditional internship program, George. It could really be an apprentice program, and that's a different animal, but we can talk about it. Mayor Mott.
I missed during the retreat, the $10 and $15 an hour discussion. Can someone just summarize the conclusion of that?
My sense,
It seems like a
Mr.
long
Mayor,
time
was
ago.
that would we be competitive in recruitment at $10 an hour when the state pays 13 and Polk Works pays 15?
Mhm.
And our response was that for these targeted positions with the expectations that we're setting and the track record of full-time employment, that we had never had an issue at $10 an hour. And so that was the number that we felt was in the best interest of the taxpayers and still allowed us to move forward. Commissioner Lindsay had thrown out a ballpark number of 25,000
It was arbitrary.
arbitrary.
For the budget.
And so we worked
Backed
around
into
that.
the 6.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And that's based on, and that is another thing that we discussed with the chair, thank you, Mr. Mayor, is that these internships are a little bit different than the normal internship and that they're extremely intensive. This budget is based on $10 an hour, 40 hours a week at 10 weeks. So this is a very immersive program.
And it gives them opportunities. It's just that we want the quality. If it ever becomes an issue, we certainly want to draw the quality.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think this is a good place to start. It doesn't limit our discussion as we move down the road of tweaking, right? Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And thanks to staff for doing that and working on that really quickly after the retreat. Our HR position realignment is up next.
We recommend the board approve an additional position for human resources. We recently had the human resources and risk manager resign and move out of state. In lieu of hiring another manager, we'd like to hire 2 entry-level positions, one to focus on benefits and one to focus on recruiting. The manager's previous pay was $32 an hour. The new positions would be $18 per hour. There's a minimal difference in salary. With the difference in funding needed for fringes, it's approximately $20,000. However, the change would be budget neutral due to HR currently having unspent funding in other accounts. And then we would budget for it in following years.
Move approval of staff recommendation.
Second,
We have a motion and a second discussion. Questions for Kelly or Steve? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And finally, microtransit model for Lakeland.
We recommend that the annual proposed budget to continue the operating of the LSV, low-speed vehicles, along with the downtown connector. Previously, that began as a pilot, be continued, also known as the squeeze. This has been a successful program, and based on the attached budget that has been provided, due to the increases in salary, the additional drivers needed for special events, we removed the lunch budget and put in the special events in lieu of that. The annual proposed budget would be about $382,000.
Chair, Commissioners, this came out of the strategic planning retreat in looking at what the future of the squeeze is. Staff met and decided that it was in the best interest to call the squeeze what it is, which is microtransit. I will be giving a executive director's report in a few moments or in a bit. And I'm happy to announce that Winter Haven has asked us to pursue a squeeze type model, which is a little bit different, but we see that this will expand. And so these are called within the industry microtransit models. So as you know, the squeeze has been extremely successful. We provided service at our first special event, which was Mayfair, and did over 300 rides during the Mayfair event. And that was on top of what was already being provided internally within their shuttle system, as well as the parking shuttle that Florida Southern College provided to their lot as well. So the special events is a proven track record as well. We're doing between 150 and 250 rides every Friday and Saturday night. And we're seeing lots of repetitive riders, especially from the Lake Morton Historic Neighborhood Association. And I'm happy to announce we finally have market penetration at the hotels, as it's now part of their lexicon at check-in. And Mr. Dunn recently reported that the hotels have now invited us in under their canopies. So rather than there was that initial trepidation, they wanted us out on the curb, we're now able to pull right under the canopy and pick
That's nice.
these individuals up, which really provides an excellent service. What you'll see in page 2 of the budget is that we worked with Julie Townsend at the LDDA. And what this budget includes is the Friday and Saturday night service with the squeeze as it currently stands from 5 p.m. until 10 p.m. This also includes 48 farmers markets, which operate in the downtown area. And it also includes the 12 food truck rallies that occur on the third Thursday of the month. If you've ever had the opportunity to attend a food truck rally, Munn Park truly turns into a large picnic area, and we know that's very well attended by the locals that come down and use Munn Park as their living room for that evening. So we expect that squeeze ridership would be heavy there. And then the Lakeland Downtown Development Authority provided us 34 special events that occur that are publicly noticed and open to the public in Munn Park. And we budgeted for 17 days of those events. Looking at the list, there are some car shows and some other things that we felt like maybe weren't exactly the squeeze market, and we didn't want to take too big of a bite and say we were going to be running for every special event. So this budget includes 17 days of events. I keep saying days because I see Sarah is here. And so I wanted to be clear that the Mayfair, for example, if we did Mayfair, that would count as 2 of the 17 days. With the exception of Mayfair, the LDDA has reported that none of the events that they have listed are more than 1 day. So Julie and the LDDA, with the blessing of the chair, are ranking for us all of the 34 events that are on that list and giving us the estimated number of people who attend those events. And then we would bring that back to the board as part of the budget presentation. And those would be the adopted 17 special events. Because again, we have to, if this is approved in the 22-23 budget, we must publicly notice that the squeeze is operating at these events, so it's not seen as charter service. This budget is, as was stated by Kelly, a significant increase from what we're currently doing. It also permanently scuttles the lunch service if we adopt this model. As you know, the lunch service was not very popular, not popular at all. It also does not include any offset in advertising revenue, nor does it include any offset in fare structure, as we want it to be as fiscally conservative as possible. What you also have at your desk are the squeeze revenue totals currently, as there was a discussion at the LEDC. and others have said that the major barrier to using the squeeze is the fare. And people continue to struggle to download the app and pay the fare. You'll notice that in October and November of 2021, you'll see significant fares of $1,400 and $1,200 respectively. That was the bulk purchase of the wooden nickels by the hoteliers to put into the rooms. They each purchased 500. December, January, February, and March, you can see the absolutely anemic fare box recovery ratio of the squeeze as the majority of the community continues to struggle to download the app. And we want people to ride the squeeze. So it's taking them the entire ride to figure out how to download things, despite all of the hard work that Erin and her team did, all of the videos that we've done, our integration with Cash App, our integration with, what's the other fare? Venmo?
Mhm.
People are finding it very challenging. So we submit this budget for your consideration. And again, you have the fare information as well.
Questions for staff? Commissioner Lindsay?
Will each of these 17 events have a different designated, like a better word, park and ride location? Is it, or you just get on it wherever you find your own parking spot and wait for it to come by?
So Mr. Dunn is not here, but Mr. Sims, please correct me if I say anything wrong. What we found, Commissioner Lindsay, with the Mayfair event was that if we run the existing published squeeze route as close to possible with modifications due to wherever the special event road closures are, the ridership is the highest. So the best example I can give you is First Friday. We have to modify the squeeze route every first Friday, even though we operate on Fridays. But the Lake Morton Historic Neighborhood Association, the hoteliers, everyone now knows how it works, and our repeat riders are comfortable coming out and utilizing that. And they know when they get to the downtown, we're going to run modifications and get them where they need to go. So Mr. Sims, is that a pretty accurate statement on how you see the special events working? Correct. Okay. So what we want to resist, Commissioner Lindsay, is what the initial request from Mayfair was, which is, can the squeeze be our parking shuttle?
Right.
No, this is public transit. We want, yes, sir. We want to provide public access to an event. If parking shuttles are needed, that's the job of the special event or whoever's hosting that. We are an augment to the entire community.
Question.
Yes.
With the fact that people are having difficulty downloading the app, are we going to do anything differently than what we've done before to help them, or are we just going to continue with the same marketing?
The staff would recommend moving to fare free.
And part of that is too, from our staff meeting, is the safety issue. So when you have a driver, who's pulled off and you want to take care of your people, your riders, and then trying to get them to download and get them to swipe, it's distracting. And so we want to be as cautious as possible. So that's one of the other recommendations that I think comes from operations, is that it adds a layer of safety that we want to be more cautionary about.
Absolutely. And also, Commissioner Santiago, I believe that the analysis that Erin and her team has done, although we have not advertised on the carts yet, that the amount of money that we can bring in advertising revenue now that we have a proven model can significantly dwarf the numbers of bringing in fares. So we have 3 golf carts. The larger tops are now in, and Jay is here today. The budgeted numbers that Erin had developed, ballpark numbers for advertising, included wrapping the carts. So imagine what would Harry's or 1961 pay to have a golf cart wrap that says, follow me to Harry's or follow me to 1961. And then Jay, pending some discussions with the RP Funding Center and the ability to park the carts inside at the RP Funding Center, Commissioner Santiago, Jay has said that he can design New York cab style tents on the top that would allow for additional advertising revenue. So we could offer the cart wrap to one advertiser and the top to another, or we could offer a complete wrap with the topper for advertisers as well. So I think the advertising revenue opportunities well exceed the desire to
And they're
collect a
not
fare.
factored into
And
this.
yes, it's in there.
And certainly here.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty anemic.
Yes, and every time we do this, Cash App, Venmo, and others get their cut.
Right.
And Erin and her team are uniquely suited and are willing, ready, and able to take on the workload of 3 advertisers and making sure that she works with them. Dave's an expert at graphic design. We have Blackjack Media, who's already under contract, who can do bus wraps. So this is definitely something that we can manage in-house as far as selling the advertising space through Erin and her team. And then Blackjack Media can work with our procurement staff to make sure that they're wrapping the buses at the same, the carts at the same quality that they're wrapping the buses.
So this would include running it during lunchtime also, or just
No.
keeping the
No.
evening one?
Commissioner Santiago, this would terminate
Okay,
lunch
totally,
completely
okay.
and replace it with special events.
Mayor?
And I think lunch, that's practical because you have X amount of time and you want to hustle and you don't want to waste 1 minute standing waiting on something speculative. So that's just not probable to develop.
I think we tried to find a solution for a problem that didn't
Right.
exist.
Right.
You going to prorate this for the balance of this year or start the new fiscal year?
We would start the special event starting October 1st. If the board would so move, we could effectively make the squeeze fare free starting this weekend. As the budget that we presented to the board that was adopted for the program, the pilot year, also did not include any revenues for advertising or fare collection. Correct, David?
Yeah.
So there's nothing in the FTA that prohibits us from making it fare free immediately. As you can see, we're effectively
Fair free.
fare free already.
Yes, sir.
I'd like
Oh, I'm
to,
so sorry.
I'd like to make a motion that we make it for free.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do you want to take these singularly, that we do it fair free, or to accept this budget in front of us?
Singularly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any discussion about fair free? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries on fair free. And then do we want to accept the budget that's presented before us for the squeeze?
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, great work, you guys.
Dave, you can't smile that much.
His ears are pushing off.
He probably already has the Facebook update ready to say it's fare free.
Break his face.
Yes, Commissioner Santiago.
And just with one request, will you bring to us the comparison of the ridership once it
Yeah.
goes into implementation?
Yeah.
To see, to make sure that it still works?
Yes, Commissioner
Okay.
Santiago, Mr. Dunn was here this morning. His garage door's broken, so he's rescuing his wife, who's trapped in the house. Mr. Dunn this morning was very excited in anticipation of the board considering this opportunity, and we feel that squeeze ridership is already extremely high. We are at the point where the squeeze is doing close to the number of rides that the Peach Line is doing. So it's quickly becoming one of our most popular routes outside of the Gold Line and the medical corridor. And it's people are still learning that it's here. So we're very excited about what this is going to do. In some of the conversations that the chair has had, that I have had, and I believe that the mayor has had at the LEDC and in that building, there is a barrier to access with the fares. And that some people are still not riding it because they're a little bit concerned about the fare. So we're excited about that. We also have the opportunity to work with LPD and the new LDDA additional private security, that if there is any issue with the homeless riding due to the fact that it's fare free, that we're able to work with that new asset that the LDDA is funding and LPD. Staff feels, especially Bill and Marcia, who've been here for a number of years, that there is not going to be an issue with the homeless riding this service because it's free, because it is much different than the trolley. And the trolley that we had decades ago was a large 40-foot bus that operated till well after 10 o'clock at night. It was air conditioned. It provided people the ability to get out of the weather and stay in the air conditioning. And quite frankly, the service was not well ridden. And so it provided them the ability to effectively be on it all night without getting hassled. We also had no policy that you had to get off at the end of the line so they could stand there. So those issues that especially the city commissioners may hear from long-term residents about, well, is this
That's
going
what
to turn into the trolley? They're completely different products. So I don't see that happening.
I want to make sure too that if our ridership does, as we all hope, increase significantly, that we have some idea about queuing. Because I just would not want to see a late night brawl over who got to a stop first. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Any thoughts, Paul?
I don't know if we need to do it yet. I just want to keep an eye out on it.
I think it's a good idea to keep an eye out, but so far what we've observed,
It's been
we're
a
not
while.
concerned about that.
Okay, good. It's down the road. Yes, ma'am.
What are the thoughts for Winter Haven on this in terms of funding?
So we met with the city. We presented the fair share agreement to the city of Winter Haven. They will be budgeting for their full 20% fair share for 2022, 23, 23, 24. It is in the budget presentation. What they have asked for is a squeeze type route, a microtransit route that would use a paratransit style vehicle that would go from the Legoland resorts and hotels, hit the downtown area as well as
The hotels on Cypress Gardens.
the hotels on Cypress Gardens Boulevard. The frequency, Mr. Mayor, that we had presented back in 2018 was 15-minute frequency, which would have required 4 vehicles. So the price tag on that is much higher. That is also a different target audience than we're serving in Lakeland. The desire of the Winter Haven City Commission is that we price that out and present that to them. There are opportunities by statute, and the two of you know this better than anyone else. There are opportunities by statute that tourist development dollars could be used for a service like this, since it's specifically targeted at moving tourists from theme parks to downtown areas.
Downtown, yeah.
Nice.
So there are opportunities for that. So
Is there, do you have sufficient fleet in mothball or whatever to try it? Just, I don't want another squeeze lunch experience.
Right.
But it didn't work.
Right.
And then we were nimble enough to adjust. But this is more capital intensive
Yep.
and personnel intensive, willing to try it, but to see if it's going to work. That they may want that same kind of trial run to see if they want a long-term commitment.
Something we discussed was using some of the capital possible to get another cart for the Lakeland service. We already have one extra as it is.
for Winter Haven, if we had to
I'm
use
saying,
cards.
so if we purchase another cart and we were to put 2 out there.
We would have to use cutaways
Yeah.
for the Winter Haven service.
Okay. Otherwise, yeah, otherwise we'd have to look into it.
Do you have any TDs that aren't being used?
What's our spare ratio on para and fixed? Para and TD.
Depends if there's driver shortages, then we could have up to 8 extra, but if everything's good, then we probably have about 4, 5 extra pair of buses.
So.
So we could
Mr.
test
Lindsay.
So
it.
we could test it.
Theoretically, we could test it with what we have. Yeah.
When are you presenting this to?
So I had wanted to take 60 days for development. Aaron would like to present to the Winter Haven City Commission
6 days.
at their next commission meeting. So the target's going to be the next commission meeting. I have strongly recommended to the Winter Haven Commission at the dais and the mayor that our first stop be Bruce with the Economic Development Council and with Sarah Beth at the chamber, because at the end of the day, we can design the route, but they're the ones that know their community the
Yeah.
best. So I believe Aaron was going to set up a roundtable very similar to what we did with the Squeeze, which was the business community, Julie, Chuck, and do the same thing out in Winter Haven so that we can develop what that route looks like. Because I can tell you, Commissioner Santiago, their community has completely changed
Oh,
since
yeah.
this initial concept in
Absolutely.
2018. What I can tell you is that the initial projections were 933 people a day.
Yeah, I'm excited for them, which is why I really
I
asked the
think
question.
that's great.
You know, and sooner is better.
Erin, did you have something you want to add?
So the first part I'd like to point out is that in 2018, we had the commitment from Adrian Jones to provide us the buses. So that may be something that we could circle back with Rex.
Okay.
I don't know that that Rex was even aware that we
Privy.
had done any of this work. But the other thing I was going to say is that meeting, that discussion is tomorrow with Bruce and Sarah.
Oh, excellent.
Well, to set up the bigger meeting.
Is it with the whole Economic Development Council or just with him?
No, ma'am, I'm just going to see them tomorrow and ask if I could have 10 minutes of their time.
Thank you. And just kudos to, just to go back to fair share agreements. I mean, Erin and Tom and Kaylee hit all of, 17 municipalities is a lot. And I know we only have fair shares with 15 or 15 or 8. Well, there, that's still a lot because they're spread out all over the county. So I just want to give kudos to y'all's team
Yes.
because you continually pound the pavement for Citrus Connection all around the county. So thank you for doing that, and you too, and going to evening meetings and sitting through agendas, and takes a lot of patience. So we appreciate y'all doing it to get everybody on board. No pun intended. Okay. So now we're moving on to contingency fleet and Jay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As mentioned in the board retreat, we is working on contingency fleet. We have a plan for you right now for approval. There is no buses going into it right away. We are waiting on 2 buses to be delivered. Once they are delivered, then we will analyze the fleet and then go from there and add vehicles into contingency. As mentioned about this pilot for Winter Haven, if there's buses in the contingency, like a cutaway bus, that would help us in that scenario. Emergency relief and things of that nature, training buses will be in contingency. So I'm asking for approval for the actual plan itself.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion and questions for Jay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You got it, Jay. Thank you, sir. James Phillips, Policy and Procedure for Public Hearings.
Hi, good morning, Chair, Mr. Mayor, and Commissioners. As Tom has mentioned a couple of times in meetings, I'm effectively will be transitioning into Rodney's position October 1st.
Yay.
So as part of my internship with my program is effectively learning from Rodney as much as possible before he leaves this summer. Part of that transition, we were examining our policy and procedures for public engagement. With the new routes that we're looking to transition to help with the driver salaries, we noticed that some of the language needed to be updated. So this item before you for your approval helps just clarify some of the language and update to make it more accessible for people to use.
And we need approval for this, so we would need a motion to approve the policy and procedure.
Approve the staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions for James? Yes, Commissioner Lindsay.
Summarize the changes in 25 words or less.
It said 30 days. It didn't say specify business days or calendar days or
That kind of
stuff. And then in the event if we brought changes before you guys and you turned it down, it didn't say anything for that either. So it just codifies that as well.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. And James, you're going to do our TDP update too, aren't you? Or-
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Awesome. That's next.
Okay. I have my notes here. Unfortunately, Julia cannot be here this morning. She was feeling a little under the weather. So very quickly, since last month, we have finished all the stakeholder meetings with planners and business development communities. Those notes have been sent out to the consultants. The consultants have, from our current system, developed a needs plan, which a needs plan is basically the consultants doing an analysis and seeing what our current system is lacking. So they did a needs analysis That plan will go to the public starting next week and posted onto the TPO website. So the public can look at this needs analysis and vote and rank what they want to see out of the system. Longer hours, new routes, stuff like that. The public workshops will be next week. Thanks to Erin and her amazing team. They will be assisting with a lot of those workshops as well. And that's all I have.
Great. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you stepping up. All right, Mr. Phillips.
Yes, under Executive Director report, I wanted to report that the IT termination that was taken to the Executive Director as the final step in the grievance process was upheld. And our new IT manager will be starting on the 16th of this month. We're very excited about his arrival. We'll do a CCTV, introduce him to the team, but also should be noted that he was formerly a college professor. And so working with 2 interns should be absolutely perfect.
Wonderful.
Great.
Erin Killebrew and her team will be giving a presentation to the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board at their next quarterly meeting. There does appear at the last local coordinating board that there may be a disconnect between the work that the team is doing and the perception of the board with how much outreach is occurring. So Erin is going to close that knowledge gap so they can see the amount of work that's going on. Some of the board members had concerns about market penetration. And so as you all know, being board members, that's on our Facebook page. They're out there. Mr. Mayor, I know you've experienced it in your personal life. But again, knowledge is power. So we want to make sure that they know that. I hope that Todd and his team are watching. We're very excited and thankful that the county has asked us to submit their budget for the 22-23 fiscal year. We consistently and thank the county for the partnership. You have before you the budget that we'll be transmitting to the county. In summary, the county subsidy is estimated at $3.132 million. The total increase is 3.4% or $102,945. So the county check last year was for $3,029,000 and change. The request this year will be for $3.1 million and change, a 3.4% budget increase. So very modest, and the details are there. So we will be submitting that to the county. And I would expect Commissioner Santiago and Commissioner Lindsay that we may present these details to you at an agenda study sometime in the future. I gave you the update about the Winter Haven microtransit proposal that's been requested. I'm also very happy to announce that Davenport City Commission, we did a presentation and their fair share agreement is in their budget for 22-23. Erin Killebrew presented to Lake Hamilton last week, and Lake Hamilton is staying in and will continue to be in their 22-23, and then pending the outcome of the current staffing situation in Haines City, which Erin will be monitoring tomorrow. Is that correct? At 2. Our goal is to be on the agenda after that for the Haines City fair share. As you know, Haines City has the largest adjustment process to get to their 20%. And so we'll be aggressively pursuing that after they make their decisions. The retreat follow-up will be on the agenda for next month. So staff will give you an update on that retreat. Yes,
Remind me, what was the Haines City, what they were paying and what's the difference?
Haines
I
City,
know we talked about it in the retreat, but I can't remember.
while Erin's pulling that in.
Okay.
They were paying $55,000 for this last year, and then $45,000 the year before that. It's going up to $172,000.
Okay.
The 172 is the 20% benchmark.
It is, but we're just, like we've said, we're just trying to get them to increase it because that's.
To the 20%.
Well, no,
Oh, okay.
we're still trying to negotiate with them because 55 to 172 is a large jump, and we added that service without asking them.
It's,
So we're just asking for a commitment.
what does 172 represent as a percentage?
Their full 20%.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
So that's the range.
Oh, I'm sorry, but we're
Yes.
not asking for the 172. We're asking just for more
Close the gap as much
to
as you
close the
can.
gap.
Gotcha.
171.
171.5. And again, as you all know, the Haines City Commission is extremely dedicated to public transportation and the rubber wheel service they have, even with the desire to bring the rail service. So Aaron has spent a significant amount of time, I've spent less or so over the last years, telling them that, again, the biggest investment in public transit since the inception of Winter Haven Area Transit has been what this county commission has done in the 3 new routes. And the explosive ridership numbers that they've seen are because of the $660,000 that you all budgeted for those 3 routes. Commissioner Santiago wanted the 4th route. She then got it a few years later, thanks to additional grants. So they've had 4 additional routes. Now that those have matured, it's time to decide if those routes are worth investment. And I absolutely believe that they are.
So of the 8 fair shares that we have, so we have Davenport, Lake Hamilton, Winter Haven, we're meeting with Haines City. What are the other 4?
It's actually 10,
Okay.
so
You
there's
just,
10 fair shares. Alberta, Bartow, Davenport, Dundee, Fort Meade, Haines City, Lake Alfred, Lake Hamilton, Lake Wales, and Winter Haven. So we lost Eagle Lake, we lost Frost Roof, and then the other ones are, so Lakeland, Bradley Pierce, those are all in the district. Mulberry is not, Bowling Green is not, Polk City is not, so that should be 17.
okay.
That was the math.
Well, Bowling Green's not,
Not a municipality.
they're not a municipality. Hillcrest Heights is a municipality that we never count, and that's the 17th one.
Okay.
You have to be larger than an HOA to be counted.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would, we've
Yes.
had robust communications since the retreat article in the Ledger with all of our municipal partners. So they are committed to their fair share agreements. The questions that came out of the article, I believe we've largely answered. There was a flurry over the week when that article came out. So we made some clarifying statements. And I think one of the consequences of that article was that we were able to then give presentations prior to many of these smaller municipalities to say, this is what your fair share is going to be, here's what your ridership is. I think that Aaron and I were both pleasantly surprised when we spoke to Davenport. I spoke to Davenport and she spoke to Lake Hamilton, that there seems to be a recognition that the traffic is so bad now on the ridge that a public transit investment is 100% necessary, and that there's no way they can pave themselves out of it. So when the vice mayor of Davenport saw the ridership numbers, which were down about 60% to COVID, he said from the dais that the numbers that he saw exceeded his expectations. And in all of the ridge, their TD and AD, especially their ADA, is astronomical. So their longtime residents that know about transit, that are aging, are using the ADA or TD a lot.
We don't have a consolidated voice
No.
for Point Siena. Yet the same kind of issues have to be fomenting that community. How do we recognize and address the needs in that area?
So Keith Latham and his group effectively went dormant during COVID, and I don't believe that they have come back. Commissioner Lindsay, honestly, I believe that the strongest organization that I've spoken to is the Solomita Republicans Club. And I believe if we could give a presentation and update on transit to them, we may be able to identify who the champions in the community are. But to me, they're the strongest coalesced group in that region. I've attended they don't call them villages, I'm sorry. The neighborhoods, they're numbered 1, 2, 3. I've spoken to those groups and they're
In Point Siena.
in Point Siena. And those are typically really great kitchen table conversations
Right.
with the 4 or 5 people that are in that region. But the Solomita Republicans Club has, when I've been there, at least 100, if not 200 people typically.
They had bandwidth.
And I would think they were most engaged but I don't think that's where your ridership's gonna come from.
No, sir.
Oh, no.
So, not today, not next week, but in the planning horizon,
Mhm.
maybe we need to have a community charrette to measure needs and routes and opportunities, and at least know how big the mountain is to start taking away at it.
I think that's a great idea.
Mhm.
I think you'll be able to contact Keith again. He's out and about
Good,
again. So,
Excellent.
if you need his information, let me know.
I still have it.
Okay. But he is out and about.
Prior to COVID, I called him the unofficial New York
He's
once.
consumed with something else right now, which is the Southport connector, but I think he's your best bet to be able to reach outside of Solivita community, because you're right. Those will be the riderships. So,
I'm happy to help
Thank you.
meet with them too.
Absolutely. And the union will be meeting later this month to have the vote on the proposed salary increases. We, of course, expect that should be approved. It's at 8:15 at night. We are utilizing the clause in the union agreement and the employee handbook to make it mandatory for all union members, dues paying or not. Tyrus has agreed to excuse the maintenance personnel, as this particular issue does not involve them, so they are excused. But we've been very clear that they will be receiving the 2 hours of reporting pay, but if they do not, they will be subject to progressive discipline. And Tyrus himself has communicated that because this is a very important vote.
Right.
Prior to the vote, we will be holding our first town hall meeting since COVID, so that any other issues that the employees want to address, that'll be the opportunity to speak to myself and the others in attendance, so we'll be able to address those. Any issues that they have that we're not able to immediately resolve, I'll bring to the board and report so you can know what the employees are thinking.
Okay, anything else in your report? All right, is there any other business for our board? Seeing none, I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
All right. I assume that's a second. All in favor? We're done.
Is that off, James?
I will do the 24th.